Ken Cinerelli. I, along with the lovely Curelet-Balan, help co-organize this group, and I take care of the .NET side of things, and Lori takes care of the Xamarin side of things. So before we let Sharon loose on you all, we're going to talk about a few announcements that are coming up. So you might have seen these on the previous slides, but I just want to highlight a few things. So special thanks to all of our sponsors. Infragistics, JetBrains, DevExpress, Ozcode, Reflex Software, Telerik, Stackify, RedDebug, Codesmith, Nevron, No Starch Press, ASPose, Pluralsight, and Code Magazine. All of them have donated in some way or other some sort of swag for you all, and that's what the red tickets mean. So hold on to those red tickets, and we will do a draw at the end of the night. As well, we're always looking for sponsors, so if you know your company is eager to sponsor a local user group, we would love to have you. You can come up and say a few words about your company, if you're hiring, or if you want to highlight one of your products or something like that. Let me know, reach out to me, and we'll set you up with one of our upcoming events. After the event, please rate our meetup. Please leave a comment. Rating and comments help us, and it shows that Microsoft that we're an active community. So please leave a comment, please leave a rating. Let us know what we're doing good and what we're doing not so good, and we'll try to rectify it for the future. As well, we do have a jobs board, so if anybody is looking for a job, or if you have a job that you want to highlight, please post it on the jobs posting page. And something new that we're starting is there anybody here looking for work? Anybody, or is there anybody who's looking for workers? Do you know your company is actually hiring at this moment? No? Okay. Oh, yes, yeah. Go for it.
Oh, okay. We're looking for a C# developer for working in some platform code at Igloo Software.
Okay.
So if you want to help out,
cool.
Come and see me.
And it's igloosoftware.com? Or
yeah.
Cool. Okay. So go see Gavin at the break, and he can give you some more details about upcoming job postings. Cool. Anybody else? Awesome. All right, we'll keep going. We talked about this incubator last month and highlighted again, throw a little shout out to them, Open Sky Incubator. They are closer to our other meetup location on Country Hills Library, but they run a free co-working space every Wednesday. Did anybody ever take part in that? Did anybody ever go check that out after the last announcement? Okay, so I know some of the people were actually interested in that. That's over on 41 Ardelt Place in Kitchener. So again, that's closer to Country Hills Library. If anybody's interested in that, they can go check that out. There are mentors there. There's all different kinds of things that you can actually get from the Open Sky Incubator.
Oh, and they also have an event coming up on February 28th in the evening. Darsh from Microsoft will be doing a session there on bots and artificial intelligence. So if you want to go up to see that. It's on the Open Sky Incubator site. You can look at events and probably link to the event page from there.
Cool, like Skype bots and all that kind of stuff. Nice, excellent. All right, thank you, Lori. A few upcoming events we want to highlight. So our next meeting is going to be March 22nd, so that actually be 4 weeks from today. It's going to be with Bruno Capuano, who is a HoloLens developer. And we are going to be back at Country Hills, so our normal location. And again, that's March 22nd. And he's going to be coming down with his HoloLens and talking about how to build 3D apps in a 2D world. And he's going to talk about all of his pitfalls and all the things that he's encountered as he's gone ahead and started working with HoloLens. So please check that out. London.net is still trying to get their next meetup up and running. So I just wanted to highlight that they're also planning lots of events for the future. Actually, tomorrow evening, both Arlen Nugara, who's a normal volunteer, and myself will actually be in Mississauga talking about DocumentDB and data analytics using Azure and PowerShell. So if you're into data and you want to check that out, we're going to be at Tech Systems in Mississauga. So you can come and see us about that. Or if you want more information about the event, you can come talk to me at the break and I'll tell you more about that. As well, HackerNest is having their March Tech Social. That's going to be at Text Now on Haggy Boulevard out in Waterloo towards the University of Waterloo. That's Monday, March 13th. Gavin, again, is one of the organizers. So if you have questions about HackerNest, you're not sure what it is, you want more information, talk to Gavin at the break while you're checking out the job. So. And finally, has anybody ever heard of WWIT Pro, or has anybody ever gone to a WWIT Pro meeting? So, excellent. So WWIT Pro is actually more of on the IT side, so if you want to know more about Windows security or Active Directory, that kind of thing, these guys have been meeting for a while. They're a Microsoft-sponsored group. They meet at the other end of town, or at the other end of the downtown, I should say, at Trias College in Market Square. and they're going to be talking about Windows 10 security. And they actually have already announced their March meetup, which I think is March 25th or something like that. And they are going to be talking again about Windows 10 on the security angle, or something about Windows 10. So these guys are a pretty active group. If you're more into the IT side of things, go check them out as well. So, and without further ado, I present to you Sharon Bennett. Sharon lives in Guelph, like myself. I think we actually live around the corner from one another.
Oh, do we?
I think so, yeah, I think we discussed this. So, Sharon actually works for LinkedIn. She's a LinkedIn learning instructor. She does Azure course development all day long, and she's been working in Azure for how long?
Way too long.
Oh, way too long, okay. That's, I don't know how many years that is, but that's way too long. So, Sharon's going to come and talk to us about Azure DevTest Lab. So, give her a big hand.
So my name is Sharon Bennett. I'm an MVP in Cloud and Data Center Management. They changed all this stuff recently, so I always have to look it up. I'm an MCSE in Cloud Platform and Infrastructure, and I'm an MCT. And I do work for LinkedIn on Azure, specifically Azure certification. Why? Because why would it work, right? Love technology, keeps us employed. And you know what? I just don't think it's kicked in yet. We'll figure it out. Brute force and ignorance, right? So, a little bit about me. I've been in the industry 22 years. It's been a long time. Back in days of Novell, anybody? Come on, I know there's a few of us in here. Can't hide it. I'm all infrastructure. I'm going to look at you with a blank face half the night and go, what are you talking about? I cannot program. I'll prove that to you in a moment. I have tried. I have been at LinkedIn, which was lynda.com, since July of last year. Prior to that, I was at Microsoft and doing Azure there. And I was teaching Azure to IT pros across the country. You know, I'm going to be honest, a lot of times I had salespeople walk in, they were gone by noon because I had no idea what we're talking about. I did have the occasional dev person in there. And again, just, we weren't quite there, right? So Azure's come a long way. And I'm going to rely on you to push me because I don't know enough about dev. And what's coming down the pipe is these two are going to meet. Dev is going to meet IT pro, and pro is going to meet dev. You may not like it, but it's happening. So if you're in the dev world now, start looking at IT for infrastructure as code. Okay, nobody's IT admin here, right? Nobody. Okay, well then never mind my next part of that statement. So like I said, I did come from Microsoft. I did work with SMB partners. I come from SMB. I have my own company in Guelph. And so that's kind of where I came from. I can't program my way out of a box. And I can prove it to you. You're going to love it. So one of the things they'd like us to do, or one of the things that they wanted us to, oh, thanks, at Microsoft, is make the little turtle go around. They said, come and make the little turtle go around, coding for kids, and then we'll send you out in the community. You can't see here. My turtle comes off the screen, went up there. I couldn't make it do anything. So I cannot program. I took C++ 3 times in college. Still didn't get it. Okay, so that's where I'm coming from. So you may be wondering, what am I doing here? Well, I'm going to talk to you about Azure and what we can do for you, for dev. And this is where we're coming together. So this is typically what we've got, right? We've got IT on one side, dev on the other. The two shall meet and fight. Because what do you guys want from me? You want infrastructure. You want your servers. You want me to build you servers. And I'm going to go, really? I'm going to build you a bunch of servers. Are you going to use them? How often are you going to use them? It's going to take me 6 months to bring them in. All right? And then, again, this is from my point of view, nothing against you guys. 6 months later, I walk back into that company, and where do I find my dev servers? Under a desk. Because somebody's using it for client desktop. Sweet. All that money gone. So this is where we're going to start to meet, is in Azure DevTools itself. I don't have to give you a whole bunch of hardware, and you don't have to wait for me. You can just go and pick and choose what you want. I stole some of these slides, I'm not gonna lie. So according to this from Microsoft, 65% of developers say it's too complicated and time consuming to get development and test resources. Raise your hand if you go through that. Every time you want to develop. I got a few of you are going, really? Again? And then the 10% average utilization of dedicated DevTest infrastructure. I've seen that 100 times. You guys probably don't know that. Right? You hate to admit it because you're going to go to somebody and say, hey, I really need this. And then you're not going to use it to full capacity. So, and again, our typical challenge here, licensing. You guys are all in dev, so you don't talk to Microsoft licensing, do you? No, you pass that off to your IT pro? Yeah, smart. It's a freaking nightmare. We actually have certification on licensing. It's that bad. It's horrible. So what happens is, your IT pro's got to come in and license all these boxes for you. And then if they're not licensed properly, auditing calls. And then we have to go through that procedure. So there's a lot of other stuff on my end that we see that you guys may not be aware of. So licensing is a big one. Procurement delays. How long does it take you to get your boxes in? And then wait for IT to set them up. Configure your VMs. Right? It's a nightmare. And by that time, it could be 6 months down the road. You're going, oh really? We're still doing this project? We want to be fast. We want to be quick. So I'm going to show you Azure DevTest tools where it is quick. Okay, so where are we here? Again, we're going to meet in the middle. The IT pro is going to have control. And really, if you're an IT pro, you have control issues. That's why you're here. So from our point of view, we're happy. From your point of view, we're providing you everything you need. You just go and click what you want. And it's already provisioned for you. You don't have to install the operating system. You don't have to install all the little bits and pieces. Pick an operating system. I don't care. And we'll go through and we'll have to build this for you. And if you have a bunch of you, and you're all working on the same operating system, that same build all the time, we'll just have a pool of servers. Just pull one. Start it. Off you go. Quick and easy. And again, I'm going to show this to you from both points of view. I'm going to show it to you from a developer point of view, and I'll show it to you from the IT point of view when we go to build it out. Okay, so it's worry-free. You guys don't have to worry about it. You don't have to deal with it. You're just going to go in, you're going to have an account, you're going to log in, and off you go. Anybody here do training as well? A little bit? Yeah, okay, so this, you can use this for trainings as well. So you can actually go and provision all of your VMs, and your students would just go and pull them. And these will all be the exact same VM. And they're just going to pull the one that they need, do what they need to do, end of your session, it's over. Again, it's fast. You guys can go ahead and just pull what you need. I'm just going to pre-configure everything. I'm going to do it on the fly. We can share our templates, which is great. And then you can integrate this into your own tool chain. Again, I'm not a developer at all. So some of these slides, I'm going to go, ooh, I'm not sure. And you guys go, oh, that makes total sense. So you can integrate this with your Visual Studio. You can integrate it with GitHub. You can integrate it with whatever repository you need to integrate it with. So now you can go to work tomorrow and say, hey, I learned about this really cool thing. And you, the IT admin, you're going to love it because of these reasons. I can control the virtual machine sizes. I can control the builds. I can control the operating system. I can control the users. I can control when it gets shut down. I can control when it gets started up. I can control the number of virtual machines that I'm going to allow you to create. So that way, from my point of view, I'm not worried about these costs running away from me. I'm not going to have sticker shock. From your point of view, your virtual machines are already built. And I'm going to show that to you when we get there. Your artifacts will already be included. We'll have our golden images all ready to go. Sweet. You'll tie into your Visual Studio and your GitHub as well, as I've already mentioned. So this is your dev in the cloud. As you need it, you go and pull it, and that's it. We can add in those formulas, and I've got a couple of examples of those already sitting there, ready to go. And we'll show you how we actually build those. Simple. And you can add in your own. And then this is always fun. And again, this is where your IT pro goes, oh, really? You're going to connect? You want me to set up all of this stuff? Well, you can bring your own DNS. So from my point of view, that's awesome. Because now I can tie into my own Active Directory. I can tie into my domain controller. I can control what you are doing. You don't have to worry about it. And again, typically, we'll have our on-premise here. There's a couple of different ways we can get into and connect all of that. If anybody wants to learn how to connect that, let me know. Because there are a couple of options, and it's really cool stuff. Is this one going to finish building? There it goes. In Azure, when you create a virtual machine, you have to attach a data disk. You have to. If you put anything on that C drive, you could lose it. If you put anything on that D drive, because they're going to give you this nice size D drive, you're going to look at it and go, oh yeah, that's where I'm going to put all my data. It is a temporary disk only. Next restart, it's gone. So if you don't take away anything from an IT pro point of view tonight, except for one thing, it's this. Because this will come and bite you in the butt. I can guarantee it. But you can go ahead and attach a data disk. Fantastic. Now you don't need that virtual machine. What about 6 months from now? Realize, oh, you know what? I need to test something else. I need to expand on whatever we were doing. Grab the data disk. Reattach it. It's all there for you. It never went away. But this is critical. So you can go ahead and attach these data disks as required. And there's rules to that, I'm not going to lie. Another thing you can do is these training scenarios where I talked about these, so you can go ahead, pre-configure all these virtual machines, that whole infrastructure. Your students come in, they just grab them. Everything's there, nice and easy. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in here. Okay, this has got to excite somebody. So you can go ahead, build this, and then you can automate the deployment out. So anything that you do on premise, you're basically going to do the same in Azure, whether it's infrastructure or dev and test. So it'll be very similar here. Build it, then deploy it as required. Just got to get other people excited. This is totally boring. I'm trying to work in here, and I'm going, huh? I'm working with JSON code right now, and I'm in Visual Studio. I'm going, oh, okay, I'm getting it. And I'm okay with that. This confuses me. But here's where we can take whatever you're doing, and then we're going to push that right into our DevTest log provisioning. Then everything is up in Azure for you. You can work on it. Your teammates can work on it at the same time. Okay, great. Slides are fantastic, but they're awful.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you have to pay when you have the disk sitting there and not using it?
Okay. So the way Azure works, first of all, who works with Azure? Who's been in there? Okay, so this is not uncommon. So a couple of you have played in there. So the way Azure works, okay, so as one Microsoft person, cover your ears. It's kind of like the low-cost airlines, okay? It's great. You want to get from point A to point B? Fantastic. You're going to pay for that. You want to bring extra baggage? You're going to pay for that. The way Azure works is you pay on consumption for the most part. Most services are on consumption. So you are going to pay for your virtual machines, for the size of the virtual machine, as many as it's running. When it's deallocated, and not stopped, but deallocated, then you're only paying for the storage of that virtual machine. but you're still paying for the storage of the data disk. You're still paying for your network connectivity if you're connecting to on-prem. If you're still storing, you're still paying for your backup. So all those little services you do pay for. And that's a real challenge, I'm not gonna lie. Because IT pros come and say, well, how am I supposed to sell this because I can't price it? And back in the olden days, we would go into a company with a box under our arm and go, okay, here's your box, here's your operating system, here's your router, da-da-da-da, and here it is, here's your price. It doesn't work that way anymore. We as IT pros, we have to go in and say, okay, what do you want to do? And that's where we need to talk to you and find out, what do you need to do? How can we help you build that solution and that scenario, whether it be test and dev, whether it be production. And then that's how we build out the price. And that means that we have to take two groups of introverts, because really we are, and make them talk. And then talk to the higher ups to get all that, someone's got to pay for it. So it's really hard, and that's a tough question. But yes, you pay for everything that you use in Azure, which is great, because you can customize that solution. Think of Azure as a puzzle. And every customer is going to have a different puzzle picture. And you're going to take those pieces and make the puzzle for that customer. And then you're going to step over to the next customer and you're going to pull in different pieces. And that picture is going to look different. And then your first customer, 6 months down the road, is going to change because they've added something. And we're going to change that puzzle picture out again. So it's very fluid, which makes it challenging, which makes it a lot of fun. But it means you have to keep up to date, because you can be out of date in this very, very quickly. So it's not just dev for Azure, it's everything else that goes with it. There's machine learning. But you can leverage that entire stack, the whole Microsoft stack, so you can broaden out whatever you want to do. So you're not just stuck in that bubble, unless you want to be. There's nothing wrong with the bubble. So I know I kind of got a little further than what you the actual question there.
So when you say about database, is it same as a database or something else? Like how do you correlate database and database?
Okay, so in the case of a data disk, so we have a VM,
Yeah.
and then we have to attach data disk to it. So basically it's storage.
Okay.
All right, that's all it is. It's just storage. And you're paying for that storage. But storage is cheap. As with everybody, it's a race to the bottom. All right, like storage is just dirt cheap these days. And when we're talking databases,
Actually, yeah.
we're talking different,
Okay.
completely different stuff.
That for the data disks doesn't count for the Linux VMs, because if you restart those ones, you still have your data there.
Right. That's why you attach a data disk. Always, always, always.
But you don't need to do it for the Linux VMs.
The Linux ones tend to be a little different, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Definitely for Windows. Thank you for clarifying that. I forget about Linux. I'm sorry. I don't mean to. I love Linux.
How much does Microsoft use this internally for their own development?
Everything.
So whatever UI seen on the outside, they have been using internally for some time.
Since a new employee at Microsoft, if you sit down, they wouldn't have a physical box. The only purpose of their physical box is to connect to their virtual machine.
Yeah.
Provision.
Yeah, so I'm, again, I don't work out of Redmond, I have no idea what they do down there. But I can tell you, Nokia, remember when Microsoft bought Nokia? We, don't talk about it too loudly. And they brought on all those, 22,000 employees? I think it was about 22,000. They used a service in Azure called Azure Remote App, which is basically remote desktop services, if any of you are familiar with that. So these 22,000 users sat down at some type of terminal, they logged in, had access to everything they needed. So they didn't have to go and provision all that. But yes, everything that you see has been running on Microsoft forever, whether it be Xbox. Internally, the way it works is the employees internally, they get the early builds of everything. It's awesome.
So I didn't hear that. They get a what?
They get the early builds of
Oh,
everything, whether they want them or not. It's like, there you go, Windows 10. Okay. so let's show this to you a little bit. If it doesn't come up here, please. I was connected. Would you have to say that? No. I don't think so. Let me just reload the browser. Oh, come on.
There is a key, like a library page that you need to accept that you
Yeah.
You would think it would be kicking in.
It's not taking in for me either.
No? Brilliant. Okay, so pitfall of.
Just try it now. You hit numbers.
Okay. Let's get out of that. Unless anybody's so interested in the Trump kind of stuff going on in the States. So I work out of the California office. I'm avoiding that place like the plague. Okay, so this is Azure. We'll log in. I'm going to log in with Watson. So he happens to be a user in my Azure Active Directory. Right now, Watson has been assigned rights to the DevTest lab. So I would like to show you what we can do with it. For those of you who haven't seen Azure, I've been able to do some branding here, so. For those of you who haven't seen Azure, this stuff is really cool. It is so much fun. I can't believe I get paid for this. Okay, so one of the only things that he can do, Watson can do, is actually see this DevTest lab. So I've already created this in advance. I'm going to show it to you when I flip out. I'm going to flip into the IT admin portion. But I want to show you from the developer point of view what you can do. So you can go back to the office and say tomorrow and go, hey, we want. So we're going to notice here, I don't have any virtual machines here, but I do have some that are claimable. So I could have a whole pool here. And these could all be configured exactly the same, and your user would just go and pull it and claim it. Start it, and they have a whole virtual machine up and running, ready to go. So this one here happens to be 2012 R2, nothing fancy on it. Right now I can tell it's stopped and deallocated, so that's the key here. Because this is where the IT pro is going to go, whoa, it's got to be deallocated. If it's not deallocated, the virtual machine is still running, it's still using cycles, you are being billed for it. So if you go into the virtual machine, start, shut down, doesn't cut it. You will still be billed. So we have the option, we can't, well we do have it here, an auto start up and an auto shut down to help save that. But from the IT pro point of view, I'm going to control that. Then you can override it. So I was married to a programmer, so I get it. So when you're eating jubes at midnight, and this thing kicks in and says I'm going to shut down, you can override it. Okay, so because we all know we don't have 9 to 5 jobs. We'd like to, but we don't. So then I can go ahead and claim this machine. This is my machine to work on. I'm going to claim it. I can connect to it. Once it's started, I have a full server up and running. I don't have to do anything. It's already been configured for me. I can see the size on it and a few other things. Well, that's great, but maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want to go ahead and create my own virtual machine for my own stuff. In my virtual machines, I do have that server that we just saw, but you want to go ahead and create one. How many here have created virtual machines in Azure? Some of you have. Okay. How many of you have gotten to do all the networking stuff in the back end of that? Few of you? Okay, so then great, fantastic. Then I'll touch on it, but I won't spend a lot of time there. So I'm just going to go ahead and click add. There's our list. Everybody see that okay? I'm not sure if we can make it any bigger. It's okay. We'll live. Pardon me?
Oh, you don't have a mouse.
So you'll notice here that we have, I don't know, how many images here? I don't know, maybe 150? Something like that. We can keep going and going and going and going. And it's not just Windows. Microsoft does love Linux. And we can keep going. And so you can go ahead and pick any of these servers. So these images are already in the template gallery for you. So whether or not you are doing this from DevTools or you're just doing it on your own, these images are available. So I'm going to go ahead and pick one. Provided a name, a username. One of the great things you can do here is you can use a save secret. So you can go ahead and create your own vault for your passwords. So you actually don't have to type them in here. You can actually have a list of saved passwords. I'm going to go ahead and type it in. There we go. You have different, you can go with a hard disk, like a spin, or
Mechanical.
thank you, that's what I'm trying to spit out. Or an SSD, I'm going to keep it on the low and dirty there.
Is there a difference in price?
Oh yeah. Of course there's a difference in
Yeah.
You're funny.
What's the difference?
It can be a little bit. If you're, again, depending on what you're doing, and that's the other thing too. Don't let your IT pro, because they're going to make you do this on the cheap, right? Because they got budgets. Don't let them do that, because it'll make your experience miserable. Tell them
like
what
it
you
is now?
need. Pardon me?
Like it is now?
We want to make your experience better. So don't let them skimp on it. I've seen this in practice where they'll skimp on actual in production, and then the users go, this sucks. Well, yeah, because you thought you could not give them what they needed because it's in the cloud. Yes, we can scale it back just a tad. There are rules. Okay, so now this is where you guys get really excited, right? Because you're seeing these virtual machines, and I'm just going to go spin one of these suckers up. It's going to be awesome. And nobody can stop me. Right? Nobody can stop you at this point. But I'm pretty sure somebody's going to be a little bit upset if they see this kick in. And that's for one virtual machine. That's one. Now that's for a month. And I believe this is off my MSDN subscription, so that pricing might be a little less than it would be in the real world. So keep that in mind. But that's what we want, right? This stuff is fun. Like, yeah, we're going to just blaze through whatever we're doing. But this will give you an idea of some of these costs. I mean, that one's pretty astronomical, but you thought they were upset before they get a bill for this. But this is what you can do. I have given you the rights to do all this. I haven't controlled you in any way. You can go ahead and spin up 8 of these. And there's nothing I can do.
And they're all load balanced as well, right?
You can add that in.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so there's
Yeah.
we don't want this. I mean, I want you guys to do your job, but not like that. So yes, I realize that. Now I am going to submit this bill to my powers that be.
I didn't.
So we'll do that. Actually, just so I could just point this out, I'm going to find a basic. Yeah, there we go. Just so you can see a kind of a comparison here. If you look in here, you can see what you are getting. Again, between the different tiers. So normally, what I tell IT pros is that you're basically looking at a basic tier for test and dev. You can go ahead and argue that, and I highly recommend that you do, and move into some of the higher end tiers. You want your experience to be good. If your experience is miserable, you're not going to have fun. And if you're not having fun, what's the point? Okay, so I am going to just go ahead and grab an A1. Okay, there we go. And we can change the sizes. These aren't written in stone. And then we have all these artifacts that we can go ahead and build in.
Oh, that's cool.
Ah, there we go. We got a cool, yes. And again, this is just coming from the public repository. I'll show you that in a moment. You can add in your own. So when you go to build a machine, you can just go ahead and pull all this. But why would you want to do that? That's a lot of extra work. There's a lot of extra, buttons on that mouse you have to click. I'll go ahead and provision that virtual machine with everything you need. All you do is start it. And if you need to add more in, you add more in. But this is where you have to work with your IT pro and say, this is exactly what I want. And they can build it for you. And I'm going to show you how we do it.
Can you push ARM through this?
I'm sorry?
Can you push ARM, whatever the ARM, the big JSON file, and push your own, or do you have to go through the GUI?
It's funny, I'm working on a course now dealing with templates. I don't know if we can pull the templates into DevTest at this point in time. I was looking for that.
Okay.
We can definitely do it in regular Azure, totally. Whether or not we can pull them in here, I haven't seen that option, and I believe it was something on the roadmap. But that would be awesome. So what we're referring to here is in Azure, instead of clicking on and doing a whole build manually, we can go ahead and do the build once and template it all out and then just rerun it over and over and over again. So you can build out definitely the full infrastructure to a point.
Okay.
Let me pull that up though. I know there was something just recent on that.
Okay, very well.
So you can configure your template as you like it, and then just push it through to QA, UAT, production, whatever. Okay.
Yes, so let me,
Containers. Right?
yeah, but let me confirm that.
Okay.
That was something, I know it was on the roadmap, I'm not sure if it's quite there yet.
Okay.
And it might just be, at Ignite in Australia, they announced a whole bunch of new things, and I'm still trying to catch up on it.
That's cool.
So, but I know that was on the agenda.
Yeah.
So that way this is gonna be a very simple build to show you. It might be in preview, maybe that's where I've seen it. It might still be in the preview. I'll dig it up. Okay. So you're gonna go ahead and install in whatever artifacts you need. Great, you can build out your virtual machines. But this is still a lot of work for you. And there's our ARM template. There we go. But again, that's based off one machine. I know exactly what you're talking about. So let me confirm that. So once you have this built out, you can definitely take that JSON template, modify it as required, reuse it wherever you want to do it. Or if you already have one in production, you can go ahead and do it that way as well. Okay, so I'm not going to go ahead and create this. I just wanted to show you what it looks like from your point of view and some of the challenges that I face. So now I'm going to show you it from the other point of view. How do we control you? And I mean that in the nicest possible way. Okay, so I'm going to log in as my main admin account. This is live data. So here's our Bennett demo lab. And you'll notice here that I have a base server image. Fantastic. So I can go ahead and create my own virtual machine. But that does us no good for everybody else. So what we need to do is come into the settings. And this is where we can start taking control of that environment. So we can take a look at our cost by trend, cost by resource. I don't have anything in here, so we're really not going to see anything. Allowed virtual machines, sizes. Ah, there we go. Now I have some control. And now I don't have to worry about that sticker shock. So I can go ahead and say, okay, you guys can do these ones, and maybe, I'm not going to do any F series at all. But we can go ahead and add these in. We're not going to go through and do a whole bunch, but you get the idea. So we can run through. You'll notice the list is very extensive here. Oops. Go ahead, click Save. Fantastic. Now that's all that Watson will be able to pick. Fantastic. How many virtual machines am I going to allow that user to be able to create? Fantastic. Now I can put a limit on it. So maybe 10. And do we want them to use premium disks? Yes or no? How many are we going to allow for that? So let's do it for 10 because I'm feeling generous today. Again, we're going to save all this. And then how many virtual machines am I allowing as well? So this would be in the overall lab. So you can have teams working all of those together. So it's not just for an individual. Okay, so we're just going to hit save. You get the idea. Shut down. So this is where these machines are going to shut down. Again, work with your IT, your administrator. Go, hey, I need these to shut down at this time of night. Child goes to sleep at 8 o'clock, if you're lucky. I'm going to work at 10. So talk to them about this, and then you can set this up to send a notification as well, so that there's a little bit of a warning. That feature has actually been added into the virtual machines within the regular Azure portal as well. Really handy thing. And then when you want them to start up again, because we know you're not working, well, we hope you're not working at 3 o'clock in the morning, but again, I totally understand. So, when do you want them to start? And what this does is it saves costs from the IT perspective. So this is how you go in and sell it. And go, this is really cool, you can do this, this, and this. Okay. I know it's kind of cutting there. You can go ahead and add the repositories. This one's already it's already added, it's already there by default. I didn't have to do anything. But I can go ahead and add in additional ones. And this is probably where you're going to have to help IT and go, hey, this is how these are the strings you need to do that. So you can add all of these in. And then you'll have all your resources available to you at all times. If you're going to configure your virtual network, so you need to talk to on-prem, this is how we're going to configure it. Okay, the images. Remember that huge list? That list is overwhelming. And it's just not for dev, it's for everybody. This list is large. I was like, which one do I really need? And you want to keep it consistent. You don't want to have different versions of your operating system out there. So here you can come in and say, okay, I'm going to only allow, let's say, Server, CentOS, and SQL Server, whatever you're going to choose. It also makes it a lot easier because then when you go to Vision 1, you already see it. It's right there. I just need this, this, and this. You don't have to scroll through a whole list. I go to find somebody and go, which version are we using here? Which one is it? Because you'll notice here that we have different versions of CentOS, and that's just CentOS. Okay, so I'm just going to grab a handful here. Anybody playing with Nav at all? Dynamics Nav?
GP.
Yeah, a little bit?
With GP, not Nav.
Okay. And again, I don't know if this is still the case, but I know a year ago when I was at Microsoft, if you can do anything with Nav, learn it. Go for it, because they do not have enough people who can work with Nav and program it and configure it. So again, not sure if that falls into what you guys do at all.
What's
But-
that?
It is,
ERP,
yeah,
accounting software.
Oh, GP, Great Plains.
Great Plains, yeah,
Well,
but it's-
and NAV is Navision,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
we've got 4 ERPs in the CRM.
yeah, so I don't know if that's still the case, but I know, from an IT pro point of view, they were going, we need people to help us with this, because they didn't know how to do it. Or sorry, from the NAV group, help us, because we don't know how to do it. So there was a huge gap. And so they're still doing everything, Great Plains, everything on-prem. They wanted to move into Azure, but they didn't know how to do it. So, just, again, just throwing it out there if any of you have any interest in that. Okay. So we have a couple things here, and of course we'll throw in a couple servers. And we'll throw in 2016. Okay, so there we go. Very exciting stuff. Okay, let's see. Custom images. You're not going to build everything in Azure. I know that. I don't want you to. You have all this stuff you've been doing on-prem. You can move it into Azure. There's nothing to say that you can't move your on-premise VHDs into Azure. And I said VHDs. It's not VHDX. I know way back when 2012 was launched, we told you to convert all your VHDs to VHDX, and now you have to convert them back. I'm sorry, but there's the great ways you can do it through PowerShell. AZ Copy is another tool you can use to start moving stuff into Azure. So don't feel that if you move into Azure, you're stuck in Azure. You can come back.
You run into BYOL problems with this?
Well, yeah, but I wasn't going to mention that.
Okay.
Yeah, so bring your own license. And that's, I'll touch on it in a different way. I'll put it in a positive light. Everything you're seeing here, all these templates, what you're paying for is the licensing as well. So you don't have to worry about licensing, or more specifically, your IT pro does not have to worry about licensing. When you work with the templates within Azure, we do have to start to worry about it when you start bringing your own images into Azure. Depending on what you're using will dictate the licensing. So SQL is a funky one. And a change in SQL 2016, that was right about the time I left Microsoft, and I just kind of hid from it for as long as I could until I left. So I didn't have to deal with it. Depending on what SKU you're working with, you will be able to take some of that licensing forward. So again, go to your IT admin to figure that one out. Have them contact their favorite disti or their Microsoft licensing specialist. And make sure that is all put away to bed very nicely. So yeah, so that is something to be aware of. You can also take your on-premise development, move it into Azure, do whatever you need to do, and then when you're done, bring it back on-prem. I don't care. So you're not confined. You're not restricted. And I think that's where a lot of people get really concerned. If I move into Azure, it's like, oh no, I'm never going to get it out. It's really easy to move it out. Again, licensing is the biggest concern now. Technically, nothing to it. And it does take a while to move things in and out as well. Don't think, oh yeah, I'm going to start this before lunch. I'll come back and it'll all be there. No, go away. Go home. Have a long weekend. I don't care how you handle it, but it does take time to move things into Azure. And along those lines as well, keep in mind that we don't charge to move things in Azure, much like our low-cost airline. We charge and we bring things out of Azure. So that is something else to consider when you're working in the Azure environment. Again, talk to if you're building all this, fantastic, think about how you're handling that, or talk to your IT admin and let them know this is how we're going to handle that. So again, the key to Azure is architecting it. So a heavy read-write database, SQL database, that we've seen have issues where you get this bill pop in because there's just so much transaction happening. I've had one partner who set up a file server in Azure because that's where they're going to share everything. Unfortunately, they're saving other CAD files there, and everybody was pulling them down every day and working on them, then pushing them back up, and they couldn't understand why their Azure bill was so high. Because you didn't think about the architecture. Okay, the reusable bases. So you notice I have one in there called custom, but I can go ahead. Remember once, yeah, I know. There we are. Remember when we were logged in as Watson? We could have added in all those artifacts ourselves. Why not provide all that for you? And then you don't have to do it at all. So what we're going to do is we'll give this, I'm not very creative here. We're basically going to do the exact same thing we did before. Can add in the password. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to be changing that password tonight. Darn it. There we go. So I have a vault, which has my highly secretive password in it. So I'm just pulling that password, so I don't even have to type it in. I already have a vault ready to go. Again, I'm going to go ahead and create all this. I'm going to select those artifacts, so we'll throw this in. What else do you guys need in here? Playing with Chef.
Code. VS Code.
That one.
That one.
There we go. That makes sense.
You gotta have a good editor.
Then
Okay. To give you the idea. And then I'm going to go ahead and click create. That'll take a few minutes.
My favorite user of Notch ever done.
So that's going to go ahead and provision. I took care of all of that from my point of view. So when Watson logs in again, he's just going to click on that image. It's already built. And he can reuse it over and over and over again. Every user will be able to click on that image. Keeps it nice and simple. You don't have to sit there and load stuff. Or you don't have to wait for somebody to load everything for you. Okay, so that one's ready to go. Last thing I'm just going to show you here. I was supposed to do a bio break.
No, that's fine. If you want to show one more thing, and then we can take a 5-minute.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, because then we'll come back to Watson.
Sure. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so you're going to see here my current users. Fantastic. But I want to add in more. Come on. There we go. So I can go ahead and take somebody who's already in my Azure Active Directory, if I'd like to do so. So I'm not too sure who we have in here. Yeah, we'll take that one. Sure, whatever. And we're going to add another one as well. So we can go ahead and invite. So you can invite external users to this environment. So it doesn't have to just be within that Azure realm. So if you're working with somebody else or another team, you can add them in as well, which I think is really cool. This is what you would do also if you're going to use this for training. So for those of you who are teaching, let's say you're teaching Visual Studio, you invite them all in. They already have all their pre-built VMs ready to go. So you can add in those users. Okay, so I'm not going to do that. I clicked two of them. Fine, whatever. Okay, that is it. So from my point of view, from the IT pro, the IT admin, I've controlled the whole environment. So what you'll do is take a bio break. This will give it a couple minutes to provision all the way through. We'll come back as Watson, and we'll see how that looks. Sound like a plan? Okay.
If anybody hasn't received the raffle ticket, please see Dan at the back, and he will get you one for the draws. We'll reconvene around 7:35 or so. So about 7-8 minutes, please, and then we'll come back.
It's your food.